been writing for us for several years now. His blog, Kaiser the Sage, is among the most popular resources, especially if you're into link building and inbound marketing. He's the founder and CEO of Site Interactive. They've been together as an agency since 2010 and have been doing a great job with their clients since then. So without further ado, please welcome this afternoon my good friend, Mr. Jason Acidre.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start with my presentation. I actually didn't prepare. I'm not really a public speaker. I'm just really good at SEO. So fuck that. Okay, so years have passed and hundreds of updates for the past decade, and links still remain as one of the most important factors for ranking in Google search. Branded Tree recently did a study, since usually Moz does this, like the compilation of the most important ranking factors, and recently Branded Tree released their own, and based on their studies, links are still the most important ranking factor for them. And of course, it's becoming more difficult. Just to give you a brief example, Weir does desk blogging as a primary method for acquiring links. No. Well, since desk blogging has been pretty much exhausted these days by a lot of practitioners, it's become more difficult to penetrate the cheap publishers. Like for instance, some publishers are already requiring their guest bloggers to sign a guest blogging agreement, and that's one sample of it. And of course, eventually it will become more harder, especially for those who are legit bloggers. And link building will be really frustrating a lot of times. It's pretty much like looking at the downtrend of Bitcoin recently. It's kind of like you want to just bang your head on the wall when you invest a lot of money in it. Although it's picking up lately, so it's still a good investment. Getting back to link building, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Google has been updating their algorithms, especially with the link graph for the past decade. And right now, Penguin is part of their core algorithm. I won't really go more detail about this because Dean will be covering this later. But basically, there are pretty much no gray area these days because Google can now just discount the bad links that are pointing to your website rather than promoting your website. So it's either you get good links or just the shitty ones. And this is just basically a recap of what they usually look for when trying to build links for our plans or our own websites. So first, we just make sure that the links that we're getting are from highly trusted, credible websites, basically high-value websites, and high-traffic websites. And of course, they should be also from pages that are topically relevant to the pages you're promoting by building. Can send traffic, use of anchor tags, highly descriptive ones, and can easily be accessible for search bots. So meaning the links that you're trying to build should be maybe a few clicks away from the home page or any page that has a direct connection. Fuck. And lastly, the most important should be editorially controlled. Sorry, the last time I did a talk was last year, so I haven't really practiced, and it's kind of stressful. I'm stressed. Oh no, let's get back on point. So can we just automate this link building thing? Well, of course you can, but of course there are some repercussions. Yeah. And since I mentioned earlier, Google has been penalizing sites that are intending to manipulate their search algorithms. So you don't really want to do that. And link building right now is more of a branding tool. So it's a mixture of art and science. Basically, link building is done so that search engines and actual users will know if they can trust your brand, and basically to build trust. And trust can be built through numbers technology alone, since for the past 6 years, our processes for link building has heavily relied on Excel tricks, mostly depending on our templates and just sending a lot of emails, outreach emails. But right now, what really works is, just like Rob mentioned earlier, that you really have to put in some effort to be more creative and doing the things that people will actually love or link to. So it requires a lot of creativity, a bit of web psychology, and a ton of human effort, or what we mostly call as marketing. And yes, throughout the years, we've built a lot of processes around it to make sure that we're delivering to our clients. But the point is, what we are mostly missing out on is the human side of link building. Because we tend to focus more on the numbers, like delivering a certain amount of links, and how do we achieve that. So right now, what we're trying to do is to really to focus more on the human side of link building. And it always starts with having the right mindset. So this is just our plan on how we want to implement link building this year. Just to start off, I've been mentioning this a lot in my blog posts, on a few other interviews, that I've always believed that the types of links that really matter for Google and for users is mostly through content, or content-based, or relationship-driven. And of course, everyone's saying that content is king, content is very important, but a lot of us also miss out on the other side of content marketing, the marketing side. So this is a good quote from Rand. He did this Whiteboard Friday a few weeks ago on the checklist on how to approach SEO this year. And he mentioned on the link building part that you always have to have this, you have to have a great answer to this question who will help amplify your content. And why? So right now we're focusing more, instead of the approach like content first, we're more focused on audience first approach. And a last quote, just from reviewing the Google Reasonable Server patent that was covered by Bill Slawski a few years back. He mentioned that the links that people are most likely to follow are the ones that really matter for Google, or the ones that end up carrying the most weight. So just a few samples of the contents that really work in terms of not just link building, but also in terms of attracting leads, generating more sales, helping your brand emphasize or demonstrate or exemplify what you're good at. So this is our very simple process on how we come up with content. We just pick the right keywords, mostly the keywords that will make the most impact for our client's business. Not just choosing those keywords because they have a lot of link opportunities or people are looking for it. So just a short bulleted points of what we want to achieve when we create content is they should be genuinely useful, educational, evergreen, and authoritative. By authoritative, we mean Black Mirror shit. Authoritative by, I mean, content that is based on evidence, facts, intensive research, and of course, we always try to aim, not necessarily saying that we achieve it all the time, but we always try to improve, have the content 10 times better than what's currently out there. Then, of course, we also make sure that there are linking opportunities for those content. And, of course, for the final output, we also make sure that we are confident that we can promote it via paid ads or outreach. This is one way of how you can validate if the topic area or the topic area you're working on is linkable. So you can just install Mozbar, then see if other sites are really linking to the ones that are currently ranking for those terms. Just a few samples, just a disclaimer, for the next few samples I'm not really affiliated with these websites, but I'm a huge fan of what they're doing. So this one is an example of a freemium tool. So it's a free template builder. They currently have 1,000 plus linking with domains. Of course, obviously, since the site Campaign Monitor is an email marketing software, and they're providing free email templates or template builders. It's one of the best ways to attract more potential customers to your service. And that page alone is generating around 16,000 organic traffic per month. Lists, they still work. Guides and tutorials, especially those that are really comprehensive and really actionable. Like from this one, they rank number 0, the featured snippet for how to make money and how to make money online. Fuck, I wanted keywords. And checklists, infographics, visual content, case studies. They also work, especially if you have a unique angle for a certain topic area. This is a quick case study that we did. We have this plan that we've worked with for the past 3 years. We started with the website. When we started with our website, they were generating around 50,000 organic traffic per month. Then a year later, we've increased the traffic for around 150% or more, I think 100%. Just solely focusing on building the right content that can earn links over time. I'm just gonna skip on this. A few samples of relationships that translate to links, or maybe just a few samples of relationship-driven links, exclusive listings. I remember Glenn mentioned this particular web page earlier where this was listed as the #1 suggested agency by Rand, because of course they have a relationship. Strategic partnerships, if you just browse around the bigger publications out there, if you notice their footer section, you see a bunch of links either owned or acquired by their group of companies, so that can still be considered as a relationship. Even with smaller blogs for blog roles, interview opportunities, regular columns. This one's from Gary Grelling, one of the most respected personalities in SEO in the Philippines. Of course, since he has built his reputation and, of course, a lot of relationships or rapport with some of the most known editors in the bigger publications in the Philippines. And content amplifiers, if you have friends who have access to wider audience, you can easily reach them if they like what you are sharing. And ever since I started doing SEO back in 2010, I've always believed that the best way to really sell is to educate, and even to build links or build relationships or to influence someone. To educate is the best way. So, just a few tips on how we want to approach the audience first mentality in link building is, First one is to appeal to salespeople whenever you create your content assets. This is just a few months ago we launched a test website in the personal finance sector. The target audience is mostly millennials in the Philippines. And before we, this one was our first content. And I personally wrote that. Yeah. And before publishing it, I actually thought of, the original plan was to list cryptocurrency or real estate at the top spot. But I realized that the crypto community here is not that socially active. So I did some research and I found out that the insurance space here in the Philippines are very active in social media. So I made it to a point that we list them as the #1 for that list so we can effectively target them. Okay. When we publish the content, I spent $5 to boost the page, the post, mainly to get more likes because I learned that people who see sponsored posts that have tons of likes get to attract more people to organically check out the page or the post. Then after the likes, we spent another $5 to drive traffic, and mainly targeting financial advisors and insurance agents in the Philippines. Of course, the content is mainly validating the idea that they are selling, which is insurance. So a lot of people organically share the content. And after that, bigger publications started picking up the story and started emailing me about featuring the blog or the blog post. Some publications turned it into a video, some turned it into an image-based content. Actually, this one is, I think they are an affiliate of one of the biggest insurance companies here in the Philippines. And of course, with all that social proof, it has been easier for us to beg for links. And of course, proving the quality of work that we've been doing for that test website, we've got a few invitations to write guest posts for some of the biggest finance blogs here in the Philippines. And of course, with enough links and activity, the page will eventually rank higher for very, or maybe medium, high competitive competition. Keywords. Like this one, that page is currently ranking #1 for investments Philippines, best investments in the Philippines, top investments in the Philippines. And of course, if I was selling insurance, I'd make more money, I guess, but I'm not. So, although I'm not saying that all your content should be targeted towards salespeople. I'm saying that before creating your content, try to find out the audience types in your space that are really socially active or very active in linking, sharing content in Reddit or social media, whichever platform is appropriate. #2, appeal to content creators. This is probably the best way to get links or build links today. So if you're ranking for industry-specific terms or glossary type of terms, you can earn tons of links without doing outreach. So it's one of the best ways to position your brand. Although I won't really cover how to optimize your site for the rich snippet results. But what we usually do is we target and steal low competition industry-specific terms, like this one, contextual links, since it's not that really competitive to rank for that. And just make sure that you have the right format for the content and focus on optimizing the user experience to get more or higher engagement. And of course, prefer or choose those terms that authors usually have to describe when they use in their writings. And just as I mentioned, it's one of the best ways to build hundreds of links to a site without outreach. And that post was actually cited in an entrepreneur article without outreach. I've actually prepared a case study specifically for this presentation, but it didn't. Sorry, wala pa akong tulog eh. So, I have this one page on that test website that ranked briefly, maybe for a few weeks, for the term franchise business. So, it would have made a better case study to show if we've managed to earn some links just through maintaining that position. So other ways to appeal to other content creators is to find independent bloggers who don't really have their own graphic artists or designers, or doesn't have the budget to invest on creating their own branded images. So if you have graphic artists or graphic designers who doesn't do a lot, and just checking their Facebook every day at your office, you can just give them a task to create some images and offer them to bloggers. And infographics, they pretty much work, especially if you're offering them to complement existing blog posts. And if you're an e-commerce website, providing well-designed product manuals and offering them to bloggers who do product reviews in your space, or maybe bloggers who did a product review of your own products. And of course, you can also turn those product manuals into videos. Number 3, appeal to educators. So with the help of maybe one of the, not maybe, they are the best link building company here in the Philippines, Go Bigger. We've managed to land around 200 plus links from the PDU websites last year. Just mainly by promoting content that are aimed towards students. And it's also applicable to any industry. I mean, just need to be creative enough to come up with something that will appeal to students or educators. And we mostly do broken link building to promote those assets. And it really works well with that EDU resources pages, because a lot of them aren't really updated. And you'll find a lot of broken links from those resource pages. And if you're an e-commerce website, I can also offer student or faculty discounts. If you check on those pages, you usually see the contact details of who the person or the webmasters who are handling those pages. And you can also spy on other e-commerce sites, bigger websites like Lenovo. They have a students deal page. You can check on the universities or colleges that are linking to their deals page, trying to assess if you can provide something similar to what they're offering, and get a link from those sites as well. Number 4, appeal to editors and publishers, especially if you're doing guest blogging. It's been really hard to get most editors' attention these days. Since one reason is the content marketing industry has been really oversaturated, and I actually received like hundreds of not spam emails but templated emails like this, pitching their guest post ideas. And publishers are already getting smarter on how they filter their inbox. Like from this one, this is actually a trap that they will only read your email if your subject line is TT guest post 3,000 words. So it's really important to really know what your target prospects are looking for, or just read their guidelines before sending your pitch to them. And for outreach, I follow this very simple rule. I just focus on two things: the value that I'm offering to them, and of course, personalization, to make sure that I increase my chances of getting a response from them. So how do you provide value? Do a quick research of the websites and know their audience. And of course, once you start pitching, don't use any campaign, I guess. One way to provide better topics for when you start pitching is if you're using AHFs, they have this feature, the content gap analysis. Just input their website and their top 3 most known competitors, and see what content topics or what keywords they are not ranking for, and bank on those topic ideas, and those would be good enough reasons to share to them. Like when you start pitching the content idea, you can just tell them that I'm pitching you something that I know that you need, because you're not ranking in this keyword, or maybe perhaps you've done this in the past, but it's not working well. So see if once you see those topics from the content gap analysis, just do a quick check if they've written about it in the past, analyze why their content didn't work, and include it on your pitch. And yes, having a more personalized email equates to better response rates, and of course, making sure that you're providing a valuable topic or a real value for your business means better acquisition rates. And here's a great tip from John Cooper. If you're not sure, if you're still leaning towards using templates, try to mimic or emulate how real emails work. So look at what emails between real people look like. And another thing, one way to get other publishers or editors' attention is to just focus more on getting regular columns than just one-off guest posts. And since being everywhere leads to more linking opportunities, like getting invited to participate on expert roundups, your own interviews, or maybe getting invited to write for them. Number 5, appeal to influencers. So basically, before you can do the influencer marketing, you first have to know who are the big movers in your industry. Then once you've identified who the big movers in your space are, study and analyze the content that they mostly share on Twitter, the types of content that they link to when they write a blog post. Try to emulate those. So, since it's the best way to get their attention as well. And of course, if that doesn't work, try to mention them. Try to mention their work. And not just to ego bait, but of course, to get their feedback and eventually collaborate. And easier said than done, but it's, I think, based on my own experience, focusing on ideas that people won't really see elsewhere is the type of thing that you want to really do if you want to get to those influencers' attention. Radar. 6, appeal to indirect competitors. So if you're selling, let's say you're an e-commerce store, you're selling cameras, one way to appeal to other publishers or other businesses that are within your space but not really directly competing with your business is to feature them, like this one. Let's say you're selling cameras, why not put up a content that features the best photographers in your area, then reach out to them. And if you're sending more business to them, you have good enough reason to reach out to them and ask for links to to make sure that we're sustaining the traffic to that page and in turn sending more business to them. And another way to secure links through this method is to think of me. Fuck. Okay, so what I did before, SEO is a very vast, there's a lot of practices involved in SEO. Like there's local SEO, technical SEO, international SEO, and I chose link building. So I mostly focus on link building, not because I'm good at it, but I just feel like it's the most difficult part of SEO, and I felt like the challenge was something that would be very rewarding. And of course, when I was starting, my first step was just to build something out from nothing. Since the Philippines wasn't really known in the SEO space. So when I was starting, I focused on link building, and I made sure that most of the readers that will get to my content will know that someone from the Philippines is trying to make it or trying to build something that the rest of the world will appreciate at least. And just a quote that I read a few weeks ago, and something that I think will fit this last part of the presentation is, only people with firm stance get really, really good at marketing. They care enough about their message to get it out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jason Acidre. Like we did with the other speakers, we'll have enough time for 1 or 2 questions, depending how long the questions will be. So if anyone wants to ask Jason about link building, now is the time to do that. Otherwise, you'll have to catch him, in the after party or something. So, any questions, guys? I know, don't pretend. I know a lot of you guys are link builders. All right. Rob? There's a mic.
Hey Jason. Alright, so obviously Distill's done link building in the past, and we've spent a lot of time in the trenches from various grey to white to black metal. Not anymore. One change I've seen happen over the last 3 or 4 years in particular is that all those hobbyist bloggers, small website owners, have turned into professional bloggers, and the idea of taking some content as a guest post or anything has been supplanted by, oh, we love your content on our website, here's our rate card, and it's $100 to post this, $1,000 to post that. Sounds like you're still seeing guest post quality content as something that people will value big take. They're not just looking for money in return for helping you promote the brand.
Yeah, sometimes we still do get a lot of free guest posts. Although for maybe around 30% of our responses from our outreach, we get a lot of paid or sponsored guest posts offers. But what we usually do is we just forward them to the clients and let them handle those, and still focus on just reaching out to hobbyists per se. Yeah.
All right, we have time for another question. Anyone in the audience, or even the fellow speakers, can ask Jason a question about link building. If not, Frank, can you get these slides ready? All right, any questions for Jason? Going once, going twice. All right, another question back there.
Hello. Regarding link building, our niche is sports betting. So, can you give us tips regarding sports?
That's very specific.
I'm able to hear.
Yeah. when I started doing SEO, my first client was a poker website. It's a very competitive space in sports betting. So what would I advise you is buy more links. Nah, joke.
What if you run out of budget? How better than the budget?
Actually, I think there are a few sports betting websites that really invested on clean sports websites or sports blogs, and they mostly get their interactions or build their relationships through those entities. Then from there, they can just leverage those connections to build into their main website. But of course, it takes a lot of time to get those kinds of things. But I mean, that's a very dirty industry. So buying links is very prevalent. Although my best advice is to maybe start exploring, maybe acquiring smaller blogs that have a smaller following, then focus on building a community from those blogs, then getting more editors under your sleeve, then eventually leverage those relationships so you can build links to your sports betting website.
Thank you.
Alright, guys, this is Jason's third time to speak in PeepCon. He's been in every PeepCon, so big hand to Jason for that.